And like Jesus said, some of those seeds fall on rocky ground, which is most of the time, and those people leave the church and go about their mundane business. Um, but there are a few where they leave the church and they're thinking, what does that mean? What if?
Hello, everyone. I'm Claudio Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspire podcast. Welcome back to a new episode. For older episodes, please visit gnostictv.com, spiritualinspire.ca, or the YouTube channel. My guest today is Rex Bundy. Rex, thank you for accepting my invitation.
Oh, it's my honor. Thank you.
And, you said that in the 70s, after exhausting the avenues of Christianity, you became open to Eastern thought, primarily Hinduism and Buddhism. What does the exhausting the avenues of Christianity mean?
Trying to find Christ in Christianity. Christianity is a great religion that was founded on the assumptions of its followers, much like Buddhism. The difference is that in Buddhism, the teachings of the Buddha survived more intactly than in Christendom. There was a scientist, Isaac Newton, who made his own Bible. He took the New Testament and he eliminated all of the narrative, all of the miracles, and all he kept was the sayings of Jesus. And that was his Bible. And I have no argument with that. To me, that's a beautiful way to do it. Of course, he had to keep this Bible hidden, otherwise the church would have burned him at the stake.
Yes, indeed. And we know that those teachings are applicable today, but we don't take them word by word most of the time. We listen to these teachings while we are in the, in a holy place, let's say in the church setting. But the moment we leave that location, we go back, we reverse back to the normal behavior, which is not too much Christian related, at least in my opinion, because I look around and see how people behave. And you are right that, the Bible got different type of translations. The meaning of the words were not right. Maybe they didn't have meanings for that words at that particular time in history. And we have the 1611 King James Bible version, which we have to assume that was translated and written in such a way that it will appease him and his needs at that time.
Absolutely, absolutely. The King James version was written for political reasons, and it only the sayings survived. A lot of the meanings, for instance, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's. I imagine King James loved that line, and probably had that on a plaque on the back of his throne. But yeah, definitely. But at the same time, we have to keep in mind that any faith-based religion can be twisted to ends not intended by that faith's founder. But also, that same faith-based religion can produce beings like Thomas Merton, Mohandas K. Gandhi, Kabir, Lao Tzu. So even though um, people do go to the church and listen for a few minutes and feel good about the clothes that they're wearing and how good they look, and but at the same time, seeds are planted. And like Jesus said, some of those seeds fall on rocky ground, which is most of the time. And those people leave the church and go about their mundane business. Um, but there are a few where they leave the church and they're thinking, what does that mean? What if? And those are the ones that expand the faith and make Christianity, as flawed as it is, a valuable commodity in our civilization.
Indeed, and you talk about political, and if we associate it with the Bible, I think, in my opinion, and based on what I studied, the laws, the existing laws, were written based on the Bible and on the King James 1611 version. But the contradiction is that if you walk into a court with that Bible in your hand and with multiple signs to various quotations from the Bible, the judge, I think, will look at you like you are mad, because there are two different types of law: the common law, which I think applies to the teachings from the Bible, and the legalese, the legal system they created based on the corporation. So those two don't match. And somehow, if you walk in the court with the Bible, you show them that you don't fall under their jurisdiction, and they don't like that. That means they don't have control over you, and you have some control over the court. So again, this contradiction between what's religious and how that system, the existing system of law or legal system, was created based on that religious book.
And it's ironic that before you testify, you have to swear under oath on that book.
Exactly. Um, Rex, I know that in one of your books, you portray Miriam and Joseph, which are Yeshua's parents, as they are described in the Bible, like simple folks. But there are other seers and channelers that claim that, in fact, they're part of the Essene community and highly trained spiritually. Did you find anything related to this knowledge in your research?
Well, there's a connection between Jesus himself and the Essenes. So I feel that there must have been, at least on a superficial level, some connection between the Essenes and his parents. The Essenes had different levels of participation. They had the zealots who were sworn celibates, and they would take children from their lay community and bring them into the fold and raise them as zealots, as the um, uh, more fundamental Essene beliefs. But there was also lay followers, people who lived normal lives, kind of like Christianity today, where people go to an Essene function and receive teaching and then go home and live their lives. Pretty much probably the same thing.
And do you assign to the um, idea that Yeshua traveled to the Far East, like India and Egypt, to enhance his learning and knowledge, and then he came back to his country of origin?
I don't know if he came back or not, but that he went to the East is documented in the Vedas. The they talk about Jehu. They called him, I think. Don't quote me on that. I think it was Juhu that came from the West and studied with them. And it doesn't really document what happened to him, whether he stayed there or whether he returned westward. But that he studied the Eastern religions is documented.
And what do you think the church still resisting to come forward and accept this type of acknowledgement and this type of information that we can find out from other sources? Why are they afraid of?
Well, because it helps to assert the fact that he was an advanced human being and not a deity. That challenges the whole foundation of modern Christianity. If Jesus is not God, the Catholic Church is done for. Most other Christian religions would be done for. They wouldn't be able to stand the shock. So they have to resist that. In fact, their whole history is full of examples of their resistance to that idea. The Cathars in Europe, who were hunted down and exterminated, the Rosicrucians, the Templars. There's so many examples of alternate thought or deviant thought that was hunted down and exterminated.
Yes, and what they did to the Catars, you just mentioned, the southern France, is horrendous. I mean, they killed tens of thousands of innocent people, um, people who were quite faithful. They believed in God. They believed in Yeshua's teachings, and they're very knowledgeable. And they didn't harm anyone. They're just trying to bring peace and love in the world.
Well, they harmed the church,
Yes.
and they harmed the people who were dependent upon the teaching of the church, which is those people who want to go to church on Sunday and buy an indulgence from the priest so that they can go home and rob their neighbor.
Yes. And there is another contradiction from Yeshua's teachings, is that he said his kingdom, I mean, Father's kingdom, is not of this world, while everything that was created and done in his name is pretty much 3D material world. So how one could reconcile such discrepancy and still believe what the priests are saying to us these days?
Well, in order to do that, they have to sell the idea of an afterlife. They have to sell the idea of heaven. You can't have happiness here, but you'll have it in heaven. You can't have fulfillment here or justice here, but you'll have it in heaven. In the meantime, keep up your tithes to the church and remain faithful.
Yeah. That's sad, because people can still enjoy the life here, and they can still understand that there is no separation between us and God is within us, and we don't need an intermediary to translate any message or to receive any message from God.
Well, my teaching is that God is beyond this connection that we have. I'm a Kabbalist, and there is the sound of God's voice that's documented in the Old Testament, where He says, "And God said," and it doesn't really need to say anything after that, because that sound, that spark of creation, what science just refers to as the Big Bang or the singularity, that sound brought everything into existence and maintains everything. Everything that exists has a frequency, has a rate of vibration. And all of these different vibrations are part of the one primal vibration that sustains the universe. That vibration is what is within us. So we are connected, directly connected to the word of God. or a sound of God, not necessarily to God itself, whatever that is.
Yes, and what better example than what happened to the world recently with the discovery underneath the pyramids in the Giza Plateau. All that construction and edifices underground, it's all about vibration. And imagine how much volume of soil is there. But these structures will still vibrate and transmit the vibration north, I mean, to the top of
The
the
apex of
soil,
the
to
pyramid.
the ground, to the pyramids. So that's so obvious.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. The mystery of water also is um, very profound in my studies. The the word of God that we talked about in the beginning was is described in the Old Testament as a river running out of Eden, and it divides and becomes four heads, and that is the name of God, Yad He Vohe, or Jehovah, and that is the engine of creation. That is um, the way that the universe and ourselves are constructed. And paramount in that is the letter He, which is Yad He Vo He. Those are the waters that were divided by the firmament, the waters above from the waters below. The waters below are you and I speaking here, you and I believing that we are that lie that was told in the garden, that you will not die, that you will live forever as God lives forever, and you are free to choose for yourself what is good and what is evil. That separation that you talked about earlier between us and the vibration of God's voice, the spark of creation. That vibration, that separation between the water above and the water below. The water above is merely our higher selves, for lack of a better word, enlightened self that sees the truth and gains peace.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And because we talk about, you mentioned water, you wrote a book about water, and I also wrote two books about water. I imagine water as a main character in my book, and I wanted to do it in a different way. And so
Would you send me a link to that? I'd like to read it.
of course, I will send you the books. So what is the secret doctrine of water? What exactly, how did you map the Holy Grail related to water?
Well, you've read my books. um, the Holy Grail, the myth of King Arthur, was my way of saying that the ancients had more of an understanding of the nature of our reality, and because of the political situation, because of the religious situation, at the time, it would have to be disguised. It would have to be hidden. So the story of King Arthur is mirrored and I tried to do this in the book, is mirrored in the path of the seeker in the book of Proverbs. And it's about the lower water, the mundane self, who has this glimpse that there's something else, that there's that this is not all there is, and begins his quest. And this quest is the connection um, of the water to the water, and that is the symbol of the cup, or the mystery of baptism. Baptism, uh, the meaning of that is completely lost, and that was my goal in the story of Arthur was to demonstrate how in Christianity the mystery of water is lost, the significance of baptism or the mikvah is lost to most people.
So, in Catholic Church perspective, they went all over the world, especially South America and Africa, with missionaries trying to change people's tradition and mindset and baptize them. But these people, the indigenous people, lived there for thousands of years and they were doing fine. They had their own shamans and medicine men and women. They had their own connection with nature and the divine. They got messages when the time was right. So
The higher water speaks to the lower water many different ways.
exactly. So in your opinion, after so much research, do you think that those tribes, these indigenous people, had to be converted to Christianism in order for them to be closer to Christ consciousness?
No, I think that they had to be converted for. There's a saying. There's a saying in business that you either grow or you die, and um, they needed to grow. They wanted the whole world to be under the umbrella of the church. It's the same old story. It's like a plot out of a James Bond movie. You know, the evil villain wants to take over the world, and the sad fact is that they do. They do want to take over the world. This dark force, this force of ignorance, of blind obedience, and the way that they do it, the way that they promote it and energize their soldiers, was to tell them that Christ can't return until the word is preached unto all the world. I mean, they actually said that, and I think that Yeshua would turn over in his grave, and I'm quite sure that he has a grave.
Yes, somewhere in this world. But again, there are accounts about him living after the crucifixion and going back to the East and marrying Mary Magdalene and having children. So again, I read a lot and I have an open mind to any type of information. I look at the source, and I see if there is any base on that. And I think there is, because at that time, the accounts of his murder on the cross might have been altered and intentionally, just to give the impression that he died while he survived and continue his work somewhere else.
I believe that. I don't think that he died on the cross. I think that I think someone died on the cross. If you've read Who Do Men Say That I Am, and it looks like that you have, you see that Pontius Pilate was not a totally evil man. He was just a man, and he saw the injustice of Yeshua being charged with these crimes, and he saw the injustice of putting him to death, and he tried many um, many ways. My mind is blank, so I'll just. He tried many ways to release him, to let him go, and of course, in Who Do Men Say That I Am, I gave him an out. I gave him an excuse, a way to release him, and substitute somebody else who deserved to be crucified. So, and as we said before, there is documented evidence that he did go to the East. There's also the belief by the Cathars that he went to England. And that's where the Holy Grail was. But the Holy Grail, of course, was the womb of Mary, who carried the child of Jesus, who the Cathars believed was the originating bloodline of European royalty. And of course, European royalty loved that idea.
Yes, for sure. And we mentioned so many blasphemies here that everything is for entertainment purposes, so no one come after us.
Oh, you can come after me. I would love to. Well, not with a gun. If you come at me with your opinions, you're welcome.
No, these days they don't come with opinions. They come with the gun and a warrant knocking on your door or
they
our
come
doors.
with spray paint and a Molotov cocktail.
Exactly. And if Christianity believes that Yeshua was the Messiah, the Jewish people didn't believe that, and they are still waiting for one.
Yes.
How do you think this Messiah, Jewish-related Messiah, will come up, if ever, and how they will be able to recognize him or her?
Well, I think that the Messiah, for one thing, I think they're looking outward. They're looking for someone else to be the Messiah, and it's laid upon us as individuals to each become the Messiah, to rise to that level of enlightenment where we see the truth, we expound the truth, not expecting to change the world, but to change individuals, plant seeds in the ground that's ready to receive those seeds.
Yeah, and what they are calling the second coming of Christ, which is again within us, not outside us, and not a third party or third person coming as it happened 2,000 years ago.
I agree. But there's always enlightened beings walking the world.
Yes.
There's enlightened beings now who teach the truth, who tell the truth, and they don't get a large voice, which is perfectly okay, because the majority of people walking around are not ready for that voice. The ground has to be prepared, like we said.
Yeah. Rex, in 1978, you were initiated into Suret Shabd yoga by Darshan Singh. Did you go to India, and what determined you to take that path?
Well, it's an interesting story. I was at the time a very close-minded Christian. The Bible was absolute. The New Testament was absolute. It was the unaltered word of God. I believed, as most Christians believed, that that if you did not accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, then you were doomed to hell. And I was in a progressive rock band at the time, and my producer was a follower of Kirpal Singh, who was Darshan Singh's father. And in this branch of spirituality, it's usually extended down the family line. Family business, pass it on. And I was asked to meet Darshan in the recording studio because they wanted to record a question and answer period. So, being a good little Christian, I prepared my questions because I was going to expose this charlatan for the devil that he was, and so I had all my little questions, and by the time the interview was over, I had agreed to accept initiation from him. He blew me out of the water, but by not challenging me, but by saying, "Well, that's interesting. But what about this? And did you ever think of this point?" And just led me along until I saw the holes in my own argument. And so he was on an American tour, and we went to a hotel downtown in which he was staying. They had a huge auditorium, and there was about 100 other people there that were getting initiated at the same time. And he told everyone to sit in meditation, close your eyes, focus your attention on the third eye, and recite the mantra, the five charged names that he gave you. And he let you stay in meditation for 20 minutes to a half hour. And then he said, all those who had an experience of inner light and sound, raise your hands. And most did. And he said, okay, you're initiated. You leave the auditorium. And eventually I was the only one left. And so he took me upstairs to his private room. He sat me down and he took his thumbs and he massaged my eyes. And then he said, okay, now meditate again. And of course, I saw all kinds of flashing lights and colors because my optic nerve had been stimulated. And so this really disappointed me. So I opened my eyes after meditation, and he said the strangest thing. He said, "Are you satisfied?" And I went, "Yes." And inside I was thinking, yes, I'm satisfied that you're a humbug, that you're a false prophet, and I was right to begin with, and I'm out of here. And the interesting thing is I didn't go back to Christianity. I went into agnosticism. And through a roundabout way, I went from agnosticism to paganism to ceremonial magic, the Golden Dawn, Aleister Crowley. And that eventually led me to the Kabbalah, which ironically enough led me back to the Bible. But this time I had the keys of Kabbalah in order to understand what the Bible was, not the New Testament. I was pretty much done with the New Testament, but the Kabbalah opened up the Old Testament to me. And the Old Testament is a number of things. It's a history. It's whether it's accurate or not is another question, but it does purport to be a history. But it's also lab notes of early physicists who were trying to figure out who and what we are and where we fit into the universe. And one of the first revelations that I had by using Kabbalistic principles was the creation of Adam and Eve. Adam is created out of the material of the world, out of the materials of the universe. But Eve wasn't created the same way. She was taken out of Adam. And to me, it was ancient alchemy. It was ancient physics. It was describing fission. One becoming two. And then he's told Adam and Eve to go forth and multiply. the Big Bang. It was the only language they had at the time, because at that time they had only had rudimentary math. But anyway, that's how I got initiated.
I think you had a wonderful journey and a spiritual journey for that. And also you mentioned key words, close-minded Christian, and that's very unsettling for everyone who is like how you were, because they don't want to look at anything else. They don't want to understand anything else. And I recently had a very short discussion with someone, an acquaintance, and I said, are you familiar with energy work? And she said, no, I'm an Orthodox. And that really stopped me, because I realized that there is nothing between energy work and her beliefs or faith which should stop her from saying, no, I'm not aware, but I will be open to find out or read something about it. But that the fact that she is Orthodox or Christian stop her from looking at anything else. To me, that was, wow, a statement like, I'm not judging, it's just facts. I don't want to grow. I don't want to expand. I just want to stay in my box, listen to one guy telling me how I should behave. And if I don't do this, I'll go to, as you said, hell. And to me, that's so restrictive. I won't be able to live like that.
No, people like you and I can't live like that. Once there's a real old saying from World War One that said, "How are you going to keep them down on the farm once they've seen Paris?" And that's exactly true. Once you've seen the, I don't want to denigrate Christianity because that is it's a level of advancement that shouldn't be ridiculed. It's like ridiculing a child. And well, that's kind of a ridicule right there. But you, it's very difficult to communicate with someone who has their head stuck in the sand. The three monkeys.
Yes. Yeah.
I know the truth. I've seen the truth. I've experienced the truth. I'm quite sure that they had emotional responses to a prayer or a religious experience. I've had them myself, but you can't depend on your mind. You can't depend on your emotions. You use your mind to receive data, but you to say that only the data that you receive through your senses has validity is a huge mistake, because we only hear a fraction of the frequencies that are available to all around us. We only see a very limited spectrum of frequency. Everything else concerned with reality that is all around us all the time is invisible to us. And to say, well, this book tells me all that I need, they may be stuck there.
Yes.
They may live their life and die there. But there are people who receive those little, for instance, Bob Dylan. We were talking before about how the upper water speaks to the lower water constantly. Bob Dylan, in his song "Senor," if you read the lyrics, "Senor, can you tell me where we're heading? Is it Lincoln Road or Armageddon? How long do I have to keep riding? How long must I keep my eyes glued to the door?"
But at the same time, he acknowledged that his fame and success came because of a contract he signed. So his meaning of Señor could have been different than what you have in mind. So we
His
have to be very careful there.
his meaning of Señor is irrelevant because he may have been aware of the significance of what he was writing, or he may not have been.
Mm-hmm.
Paul McCartney in his song "The Long Winding Road," again, don't keep me waiting here. Lead me to your door.
Mm-hmm.
He may have been after the fact. He said that song was written about his mother, and it very well may have been.
Mm-hmm.
But like we said before, the higher water speaks to the lower water very subtly, and through all people. I've seen televangelists, who I don't have a whole lot of respect for, spout on and on and on, and then all of a sudden, right in the middle of their rant is a gem, a little seed that's going to hit somebody and go, whoa, what did he just say? Did he mean that? These seeds are planted in the ground all the time. We're
Yeah.
called home. We are called home.
Yes, and another aspect of Christians who don't want to look outside the certain boundaries is that if they have a Kundalini awakening because they're chosen to do that and they're chosen for work in this world, to be in service, they won't know how to recognize that feeling. And I heard stories where they thought that the devil got into them and they had to go to the priest and confess, and again they will it's a way of rejecting that mission to go in the world and preach what they're supposed to or teach what they're supposed to.
Well, the church is very frightened of anything connected to the occult, and all the word occult means is hidden, and it in the Old Testament, I think it's in Psalms or maybe Ecclesiastes. It says that the nature of God is to hide things, and the nature of the king is to seek things out. That tells me to ignore the brand of devil on the occult, and to seek out the occult with wisdom, because there's a lot of garbage in there as well.
Yes. And Rex, you mentioned that now you are settled on the Kabbalah studies. How that fulfills you from a spiritual perspective?
Well, the Kabbalah has. I still teach Kabbalah because it's a very good way of sorting out um, all the faith-based religions of the world: Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity. It's a great way to interpret what has been written in order to see the truth. But having found the truth that it illuminates, I really don't have to. It's like having a ladder to the window of the beloved. The Kabbalah is a ladder, and having climbed that ladder and entered the window, I have no need to drag the ladder into the room with me. In fact, it's going to get in the way. It's a tool. Kabbalah is a tool to help us decipher the clues that have been left in the world's doctrines, in the world's religious doctrines.
So then if you use the ladder, you don't have to serenade, correct?
Well, you serenade in order to get her to unlock the window.
Oh, okay.
But you still need the ladder to get to it.
Yeah.
I like
Rex,
that.
yeah. Rex, if you have the chance to invite to dinner three personalities, either historical or contemporary, on the spiritual from the spiritual community, who would this be?
That's impossible to say because I don't know their true hearts. All I know is what they say. So if I had three people to invite to a dinner party, I would invite. There is a. I would invite Darshan Singh. I would invite you,
Thank you.
and I would invite my mother.
Nice.
Um, yeah, that's it. I would invite Darshan Singh to thank him for sending me away because I may have embraced his path and traded one fanaticism for another and been stuck there. Instead, he took away all of my presumptions and sent me out into the world to find the path of water. And I would thank him for that. My mother, who I would just thank her for life. And you are the a very open-minded seeker,
Thank
and
you.
I would deem it an honor to trade insights.
Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. We're going to have salmon, by the way.
I'm fine. I can eat fish once a month, so I will space myself.
Okay.
Rex, if you have the power to give humanity another gift other than already what you're already offering, what would that gift be?
Nothing. The world is perfect. As terrifying as it looks from the mundane level, this is a crucible. This is a huge field where parts of it are ripe for planting and parts of it are rocky and won't receive the planting. So I wouldn't change that. I believe in we talked about the serpent in the garden earlier, and his great lie of telling us that basically that we have immortal souls, and we will continue in some form through reincarnation or heaven or some other human invention, and also that we have free will. These two lies or these two misrepresentations, I find it very funny that Christianity is based on those. It's based on the lie that in the Old Testament, the book comes right out and says that the serpent lied. And yet they base the religion on that you have an immortal soul and it's going to go to heaven, and that you have the right to choose, and that is going to determine whether you go to heaven or not. So no, I wouldn't change anything.
Very
There's
interesting answer. Thank you very much. And what is your relationship with God? How do you perceive God?
oh that is a very dangerous subject because that's how people in faith-based religions get trapped. Um, there's a book called The Trivialization of God, written by a Christian theologian named McCullough. I can't remember his first name, but in his book, he talks about a pantheon of Christian deities. There's the God of my own understanding, the God of my cause, the God of justice, the God of vengeance. And he says that once you embrace one of these idols and claim it as your God, then you are closed off to anyone who has a different view of that God. So to put a face on God, to put a definition, especially human attributes like jealousy and love and things like that, is to create your own golden calf.
Yes. Yeah.
So my view of God is that which is just over the horizon, unknowable, unseeable, without human attributes.
Beautiful. Rex, we are at the end of this lovely discussion. Any final words?
I love this. I had a great time, and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, leave a comment. And until next time, love and gratitude.